polarization, so many factors that can lead to this. But the point we are making here is that we should address this issue. We cannot stop it. There's no point stopping some of the applications. I think they are questionable. A baby making use of phones, putting it. There are lots of factors. Let's leave that. Next slide, please. If you want to regulate, we have to identify 3 levels of exposure. Those who are occupationally exposed, they have to be allowed a higher level of risk. Then the users. And then those who are not users, they're just general public. So next slide, please. So we have to have different standards for them to reduce exposure. And it has to be done holistically. For instance, to reduce exposure by phone, from cell phones, that can be done by technology. They are doing their best. We appreciate that. But for base stations, for instance, what we do, we have to define exclusion zones. All we have to do is just monitor. If you put a base station here, you monitor the intensity all around, and you create an exclusion zone. That's what is done in most other countries. This zone, let's use it for playground, to play ball, or dump site, or whatever, or warehouse, but not residence, not hospital, not kindergarten, not nursery school, not daycare center. So if we monitor, we can allocate use that will not harm everybody, harm people. And say, these are the category of people that should not be exposed to this level. Or if it falls in your house, if you monitor it, can okay, this place can be my toilet. This can be my bedroom, where you spend more time. So we can use space appropriately if we do basic measurements and we define exclusion zone. The problem is that the way the operators put up the stations, base stations today, is that they just go and lobby people. Anybody who agrees, it's where they see opportunity, they put it there. If they get opportunity somewhere else, they put it there. There's no plan ahead that everybody agrees to. And I think in that manner, it's causing more chaos, more problem for everybody. If I say I don't want base station at my back door, and my neighbor takes it, I'm exposed. In fact, probably I'm more exposed than the guy who is sitting under it, under the shadow. I probably get more. So we need to discuss holistically, have maps, and designate zones. So this place is for this anyway. It's a river passing, people don't stay here. And then we position the mast appropriately. I think that is the way to go. We can't stop the mast. In fact, if you, I want to emphasize this point. If you remove the mast from your environment, then your phone will need to work at higher intensity, have to put at higher level, higher power to get reception. It's automatic, there's automatic something there. So you get more radiation using your phone if the reception is poor. That is a basic fact. That's why you shouldn't use it in the traffic or whatever. If the reception is not good, better don't use it. Use text. If you use text, it's still safe. You still get the same something. So we need to know exactly the ways the safe ways to operate. And so we can't just throw away everything, and we can't continue the way we are doing, pretending that there's no problem, because then we are not serious about dealing with cancer. So moderating the source strength at base station while protecting to the general public, it depends on what you want to do. It's to protect the general public, but the individual users will have consequences. Sometimes that is the way to go. Maybe depending. Maybe just depending on the situation. So every situation has to be assessed locally. I hope the people talking on COVID in the afternoon, we talk about that. Risk assessment has to be done locally. You can't stay in the US or Geneva and tell us the best way to limit my exposure to some agency here that have to do lockdown, lock this down. Because what will work in Geneva may be totally impossible to work here. People are living in face me, I face you, residence, whatever, and you are saying, so there are other ways that we could limit exposure. That's what we ought to do. And it has to be locally. We have people who know what they're doing locally. I have no doubt, I have confidence in our local professionals. But we have to address our own issues ourselves. Next slide, please. I think I'm coming to this. So there are factors that we know, like age, gender, pregnancy status, nutritional status, and many others. These have to be factored in. Next slide. There are publications, people have written about these things. People are talking about this. That is what bothers us, those of us who are in environment health. Because there's no discussion happening here at all. These are recent publications. Next slide, I hope I have one. Okay, this is 2 and 4 by EEL. This is Health and Environment Alliance. Cancer Prevention and the Environment. Specifying some objectives which are clear, which we are totally ignoring here. This is as far back as 2004, if I recall. Please go on. Next slide. Next slide. There are those strategies that could be used. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. I was looking for, I didn't put them there. Because as far back as just last month, they are still having joint statements being made on how to actions that could be taken at the environment level that can curtail cancer. So it's our intention is that this discussion should start. We thank God for the basic researchers, and I'm very happy with the several papers I saw today in our abstract. People are working, people are finding chemical agents that could mitigate at least direct action of predation or some other things. But that discussion should be raised to the national level, and I believe by God's grace we can eat our cake and still have it. Thank you so very much for your attention.
Another round of applause to Professor Joe. I know this kind of talk would have probably got us thinking or wondering or saying, yeah, I know you have questions on your mind, so I want to throw the floor open for those who have questions. Any questions to the presenter? Okay, yes, sir. Any other one? Yeah, okay, 2, 3. Okay, so maybe we'll just take the question once. So, Prof, please get your, okay, 4. So get your pens so that you can write down the questions and then you can respond to them. Or do we take it, I think it's better we take it that way so that we can manage the time. Okay, right. So I'll call you, sir. Yes. Give us your name and your question.
My name is Okpada Sunday Adelani. Thank you, Prof, for the beautiful presentation, sir. My question borders on the erection of masks all every places. Are there no regulations or monitoring agents to curb the menace of these polyvarious masks, sir?
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, you come for a question. Okay, so you give us your name and the question.
My name is Iluyemi Arolun, Director of Admin and Supply of Smart Insurance Agency. Sir, my question also border on what my brother just said, but my own is slightly different. You know, I remember when I was in university, we talked about the two concepts. One is environmental determinism, and the other one is environmental possibilism. The environmental determinism said that the environment determines your way of life, the food you eat, the kind of work you do. But because of technology, the environmental possibilism concept now said you can still suit that environment to become what you want it to be. And that is what is happening now. We want to make sure that our environment suits what we actually want. But we don't have the basic knowledge of. I remember when this the issue of GSM was coming, when Obasanjo was trying to, people were not even asking questions when the mast was erected everywhere. And from what I learned about this mask, sir, I discovered there is this mask emits ultraviolet radiation that is harmful to our body. And for example now, then I discover most of us as a civil servant, this thing also comes to our desks even before they give approval. And that is why I want to tax our people here. I remember when I was in Capital Territory Development Authority or some state capital territory. So all these masks, whenever they want to do it, you know, they have to take approval from Capital Territory Development Authority. But what we would tell them is that they should take EIA, the Environmental Impact Assessment. So they take it from the Ministry of Environment. But what we discussed, the corruption now comes to place again. Because these people, they have money. And they buy this small land with a high price of money. They can even pay 3, 4, 5 million in a land that is, ordinarily if you want to sell it, maybe it is going to be 100,000 or 50,000. And you see somebody who want to pay 5 million, even our obas, they do sell to them. And after they sell it, they will now come, before they can do it, you know, they have to come to us for approval. And when they come to Capital Territory, we first tell them, go to Ministry of Environment. To our dismay, they will get this EIA approved. And once the ministry has approved it, the Capital Territory cannot say no. There was a situation that happened. I don't want to mention the name of that street in Osogbo here. This company, they have bought the land, and very high money. They bought that land, and the community now say they will never. And Ministry of Environment has already given them the EIA. They have approved it, and the community now wrote a petition that they will never allow them to erect that thing there, because people are now wise. They now know the implication of that mask. So they now wrote the letter. When they now told me, I now went to that ministry. I don't want to mention the name of that ministry now. I now prevail on them. How could you approve this EIA? Look at that place they want to erase the mask. Now, it took them, and we discovered that they have already collected bribe from those companies before that EIA was approved. So, what I'm saying is that what can the civil servant, in fact, like I remember when we were taking the oath of office as an admin officer, they told us that we don't even need ICPC or what have you. If we can follow the rules, the civil service rules, PSR, that we don't even need, ICPC, EFCC again. So the problem we are having go back to corruption. So I want to say here that the stakeholders who are involved in all these things should do something about it. And what can we do with the one that has been erected? that is giving us problem, what can we do? Because we discovered that those who are living in that area, they are prone to cancer. That is the truth. And that is why you see many people living in the village, they live longer than those who are staying in the cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The respondent meant, when he was saying about our phones emit UV, he meant ultraviolet. He meant microwave radiation. Microwave radiation. That was what he meant. All right. I'll call. Okay, yes, sir. Before I call the. Your name and.
I am Ola Olufemi. Just as a reader to what the last speaker just said, I think Professor Sidre that came yesterday mentioned, told us that it has not been proved that mask has so much advanced effect on people living around the place. I think he said it yesterday. I don't know, maybe you were there. I don't know, maybe my brother was here yesterday. Maybe because of that. Because before anything could, could be put on ground, you look at the pros and cons. You weigh it and see what is the gains. What are the losses? What are the gains? Before you bank on such things. I'm not speaking on behalf of environment. I am not working in the environment, and I don't think any one of us here is from environment. But what I'm saying is this: there could be reasons why they have chosen to approve the impact, the high area. My question is this, and it's making one scary: the issue of exposure of one exposure to radiation. And I can say that our development, civilization is actually bringing us more problems. We can't run away from the fact that, like the last speaker said it, we have to make things work for ourselves differently than the regular. And I want to cite an example of this issue of cell phone that we carry along. Prof, sir, I want to ask that question. Many of us, maybe from affluence or from luxury, we handle 3, 4 cell phones. 1 year. By the time you were speaking, in fact, you said, you see, in fact, it's frightening, sincerely. It is frightening because you see people using 4 cell phones on them. You see? And I don't know, Prof, sir, what is the implication of that, sir? And then let me ask this question, sir. I don't know, maybe it's just an insinuation. People believe that when you keep your cell phone in your pocket, it has adverse effects on the reproductive organ, especially for male. And the chest, if you keep the cell phone on the chest, I've done that before and I experienced it. Maybe it's psychological anyway. Whenever I keep my cell phone on my chest, the chest pocket, you will see that you feel that impact on, I don't know if it could be psychological, on the heart. Yes, on the heart. I used to feel it. That will, if you just give me the impulse that definitely something is wrong, and I remember that I've already put cell phone on the pocket, I will now remove it. Maybe that's what brought the idea of using earpiece, because it has effect on the ear too. Maybe that was what brought the idea of using Bluetooth and the rest. What advice can you give, sir? Prof, we are living in fear. God will be with us.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, I'll call on the ES to give his own, ask his own question. I hope we are not scared yet, because with all these questions.
Good morning, everybody. Who wouldn't get scared? Well, I think that's the purpose of this meeting. It's to ensure that we identify issues in our environment that impinge on our health. We raise awareness, and then we continue to, talk about them, seeking solutions that will guarantee our healthy living within our technologically developing environment, which will continue ad infinitum. In environmental studies, we talk about development as necessary, isn't it? And development can only be simply defined as a people's ability to meet their needs. Basically, that's the simplistic definition. For as long as you have all your needs, you are developing strategies for meeting your needs. You are a developing person. Once you have met all your needs, you are a developed person, a nation. So that's by the way. What I want to ask from Prof is that now, yesterday we were talking about Boli and Agbado Sisun, and our suya, and our barbecue fish, and chicken. Now today, we are also talking about our cell phones. Suya, it is suya. Now we are talking about our cell phones. Now we are talking about the inevitability of 5G, which will come whether we like it or not. My director was talking about possibilism, environmental possibilism, and what have you. There's something that Obafemi Awolowo said, and it's about education. He talked about brainwash education as opposed to functional education. The brainwash education is that education that makes you copy everything that is done in Europe and America. You know all the theories about what goes on there, and you just apply them hook, line, and sinker in an environment that is not congruous with what is happening in. I tell my doctors, in fact, I just fired the doctor this morning in the hospital before I came here, and I start telling them, you see, when the things they teach in the teaching, unfortunately, many of the people that teach in the teaching hospital are not here. The things they teach in the teaching hospital are not quite relevant to our own environment. And so we are training doctors that are less than 50% appropriate for our own needs at this time. And that orientation must change. I've always told them in the teaching hospitals, anytime I have an opportunity to talk with the provost and all of these people, the orientation must change. It is our ability to be able to domesticate whatever we have to the realities in our environment that makes us develop. The extent to which we have been able to address our own problems. And these problems are mirrored. Now, sir, these women keeping phone to their breasts, some of these students, when they are going to lie down in their hostels, they lie down and their phones are right there by their chest, female students. Now, is there something? It doesn't matter whether it is 100% true or not. We know that to protect public health, even if we have 20% evidence that something is harmful, like you are talking about the stochastic nature of some of these exposures, that it doesn't have to have been over a long period in high doses. Even little doses exposure in short period can result in just unexpected and undesirable outcomes. So how do we, beginning from this conference, make some more, I wouldn't say make noise, create more awareness that all of these things, we should start thinking about them. And as we do talk about these problems, what are the solutions that we are profiling from this conference to, okay, if you want to eat boli, are we looking for different ways of doing our boli that will not include all of those, carbons and the hydrocarbons that can eventually, be carcinogenic? Because it will not just be enough for us to say that these things, we have found them to be harmful. we must also be able to say that, well, rather than do it this way, we can process it this way. We will get our satisfaction of the boli, but it will not be with the carbon, with the charring, and all this burning. And the same thing with other things that we're talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I'll call on Professor Ojo to answer the questions.
Yeah, thank you very much for all the questions. Let me start from the executive secretaries. Talking about I want to say that, or rather, where I'm going is to thank the Osun State Health Insurance Agency, where they are one of the major principal sponsors of this conference. The token they have given has facilitated this kind of discussion. That is all we are saying. All the points we have made to get functional education rather than brainwash education is a matter of sponsorship. We at the university, we have students who are ready to learn. It is the project I assign to my students, or that we find